Unfolding at this hour. Dennis Hastert was once second in line to the presidency, but years earlier he was a trusted coach and beloved teacher, and according to one family, a child molester. A woman has come forward saying her brother, seen here, endured years of sexual abuse in high school by the man who would become Speaker of the House.
I asked him, Stevie, when was your first same-sex experience? And he just looked at me and said, it was with Dennis Hastert. And I was stunned. I said, why didn't you ever tell anybody, Stevie? He was your teacher. Why didn't you ever tell anybody? And he just looked at me and said, who is ever going to believe me?
CNN's Chris Freites is with investigations here at the network. He joins us now live from Chicago to tell us more. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Carol. So we just heard there from the sister of one of Denny Hastert's former students, and she's telling ABC News that Hastert abused her brother throughout his high school career. Steve Reinbold was abused by Hastert in the 1970s, while Hastert was a high school wrestling coach, and Reinbold was the team's equipment manager. And that's what his sister Jolene Reinbold says. She says her brother first told her about the alleged abuse in 1979, when he revealed to her that he was gay. When her brother died in 1995, Hastert attended his funeral, and that's where an angry Jolene Reinbold confronted him. Here's how she described that confrontation.
I just looked at him and I said, I want to know why you did what you did to my brother. He just stood there and stared at me, and then I just continued to say, I want you to know that your secret didn't die in there with my brother. And I want you to remember that I'm out here and that I know.
So federal prosecutors allege that Hastert had agreed to pay another man $3.5 million to hide past misconduct. Reinbold says she never asked Hastert for any money. And Hastert is charged with trying to hide the payments to that man and lying to the FBI. Now, Carol, CNN has reached out to Hastert's attorney and the FBI for comment. We've not yet heard back. And in fact, Hastert's made no public statement since he was indicted last week, Carol.
All right. Thanks so much, Chris Freites, reporting live from Chicago this morning. I want to talk a little bit more about this. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Carol. Nice to see you again.
Thanks for being here. It's such a sad story. This sister said her brother was molested by Dennis Hastert in 1979 when he was in high school. He later died of AIDS in 1995. She approached authorities in 2006 saying, this really happened. Can someone help me? But no one could corroborate her story. Is there any reason?
Well, unfortunately, Carol, because her brother has passed away, she really doesn't have any civil recourse. But, in some states, like in California, there's a statute that allows somebody to report child abuse beyond the statute of limitations. If they file a formal police report, then, for example, here in California, law enforcement can conduct an investigation within a 1-year time period and then determine whether to file criminal charges against the alleged perpetrator. Not sure what the law is there in Illinois as far as criminal recourse. But I think more importantly here, we have to start understanding, Carol, in our society, that child sexual abuse sometimes is minimized. For example, look at the Hastert indictment. The child abuse aspect of it, Carol, is secondary. They were even trying to hide it when they initially came out with the indictment. Trying to catch a child predator, especially somebody who's in a position of authority and trust, and holding them accountable is much like getting a straight answer from a politician. It's very, very difficult, and it's daunting because you have that person who's in a position of power versus a young child. And unless there's a witness or you've got some text message or something on videotape, it's very difficult to hold that person accountable.
It's just mind-boggling if these allegations are true. And I know Dennis Hastert allegedly paid out millions of dollars to keep it quiet, but this was kept secret for 36 years.
Yeah.
At a
Carol,
time in our history when he was Speaker of the House, there were all sorts of political scandals coming out. So it's not like no one was investigating lawmakers.
Yeah, Carol, you're raising a great point. Hastert was 2 steps away from being the President of the United States. I was involved in one of the biggest child abuse scandals in the history of our country. the Miramonte child abuse case. I fought for 3 years. Over 80 kids were molested by one single teacher. The reason why I'm sharing that with you is I've learned 2 things from child sexual abuse cases. Number one, the child perpetrator doesn't just do it one time, Carol. Most child perpetrators and child sex abusers do it repeatedly. That's why I was very disappointed in the Hastert matter that there was no investigation conducted back at the time when this happened. Now we have a second alleged victim. The second thing I've learned, Carol, over the years, there's a major code of silence in covering up child abuse, and also in conjunction with that, a child abuser can't get away with this by himself or herself. There are always cohorts involved that know about it, who are covering it up, and who are collaborators. And until we start investigating more seriously and prosecuting not only the child abuser, but those who are facilitating the child abuser, this will continue.
Brian Claypool, thanks for your insight. I appreciate it as always.
Thanks, Carol. Have a good weekend.
You too. This